that
I
like
got blocked by Jax a year and a half ago because I was like, why are you picking on Raquel? She is 21, a recent college graduate. Immediate block. Like, bro, do you even read the things that you're blocking? Maybe if you read the things that people were saying and actually made changes rather than just blocking, silencing, no longer in his life, like, you can maybe hold yourself accountable and maybe get a little bit
of
self-aware.
credibility, which is kind of like, ugh. But like honestly, at the end of the day, here's my thing with that. Like, if you're on a reality show, you don't get to block people, and it's not so much as like because they block people. Like Brittany and Jax are like two of, I think, like my least favorite people on television. I know we weren't supposed to talk about them, but like they're like two of my least favorite people. And I think that like from the beginning, and I think a woman can do whatever she wants to her body as far as image wise. You know what I mean? If you want to get your tits done, if you want to get the whole new face, I'm proud of you. Go ahead. Like, you know what I mean? I find beauty in women all over. So I think that like all types of women are beautiful. I have not one issue with a woman like adjusting her appearance like via surgery. But I think that when you're on a TV show and like as the TV show is like progressing and you start to like alter your appearance and like accept that your boyfriend is cheating on you and refuse to let anyone speak negatively about you, it's like you're not doing this right. Like, I get it, you want to be on a TV show, I get it, but it's like you're like Brittany and Jax to me are like, you don't get to be, unless you're Denise Richards, you don't get to be like, I'm not talking about that or we're not going there. You know what I mean? Like the shit with the pastor, problematic as fuck. Like really, really fucked up. When Tom Sandoval like called him out on that, I'm like, good for him. You know what I mean? Like,
Someone has to.
because it's fucking problematic. You're on a TV show for all intents and purposes in the gay epicenter of the world. Everyone is gay in West Hollywood. Like, so it's like if you're in like the center of these gay people and like you're saying all this shit, Jax, like, was it last year that Jax like attacked that guy and was like calling him like, I don't know if he called him the F word, but like he was definitely like, it was like some random
On
fan.
Twitter, he was like, I bet you like get your dick sucked, like all you
Yes,
do.
yes.
I took a screenshot of it the other day.
How did that make it? How are you still on the show? Like, how is that still on you know what I mean? Like,
Well,
it's
like
like,
selective, ignorance. They pick and
and
choose.
selective activism and performative activism where you are, I'm gonna activate and I'm gonna be this activist right now. And it's like, bravo, like you've now opened up a door where like there's a lot more people, like i.e. Ramona Singer posting all lives fucking matter. Like, did you see that? You saw that, right?
Yeah. But and then that's why like this past week was really nice. So this past weekend, Bravo on their Instagram, they did not put it on the network, which is unfortunate, but they had a Instagram live with Candy Burris, Portia Williams, both from Atlanta, and then Giselle Bryant from the Real Housewives of Potomac, talking about it. It was called Amplify Your Voices, and I can't remember the guy's who was named Justin something. Oh, his last name escapes me right now, but he was so great. I loved him. I cannot remember his last name for the life of me. But they had like a really great discussion about what's going on in the country right now. And Portia, one, should run for public office because she is so powerful when she speaks. And she is direct, she is to the point. Every single thing she said, I was nodding and like, yes, yes, yes. Who is Biden? Who? Biden? Who? Like, please. Like, she should run for some sort of public office in Atlanta, truly. She's fighting out there every single day and making her voice heard in an approachable way, because I think like even I had a friend who was doing like the whole All Lives Matter thing, and I like sent him a text, and then he said to me, he was like, wow, like he said, like, reminds me of Lisa Rinna when she was like, oh, you're angry, like when she said that in like the upcoming season. But he was like,
I'd be like,
wow,
you're
he said,
racist.
you're clearly angry. And I said, the whole world is angry. And if you can't understand that, then that's a problem. But then I looked back and was like, you know what? When you're dealing with a racist, you gotta kind of have to sprinkle little things in their mind and maybe plant a seed and hope they grow and hope the things that you say will resonate in them. And you can't force it or else they'll reject it. And I keep noticing that. And so the way Portia was speaking was just like kind of inspiring to me, where I'm like, she's on the front lines. She's a Black woman. She's the granddaughter of a civil rights activist who was best friends with Martin Luther King, who he is prominently featured in the movie Selma too. And just hearing how calm, cool, and collected she was, talking about something so incredibly passionate. She was tear gassed and had to put milk on her face to fucking.
Did you see the video? Did you see that video?
No, I can't watch like that shit, like that.
So it's like literally, I watched it, and she's literally like filming it. She's filming what's happening. She's in a peaceful protest, and you hear her start to scream, "That's gas, that's gas." It happens like in real time. It's horrific. Because at the end of the day, like, listen, like, Portia has been my MVP for years.
Yeah,
I have loved
years. I loved her.
After the the Cordell years.
Yeah,
in the beginning, I was like,
pounds of dead weight.
yeah, in the beginning, I was like, this is weird. But he could work at He could work at Lisa Vanderpum's restaurants because, like I said, you can't be openly gay. But like, with the,
I was gonna say it, but I could see it. I was like, oh, he's gonna do it. He's gonna do it.
I like Portia. So listen, like, I have a really beautiful friend named Keziah, who is one of the most beautiful girls in the world. She's a great, great, great friend of mine. And her and Portia have, like, they could be sisters. Like, they have a very similar facial structure.
Yeah.
Like, you ever see somebody where you're like, oh, like people used to say I looked like Elijah Wood when I was a kid. But, like, it's one of those things where, like, so I immediately, like, took a liking to Portia because she just, like, felt familiar to me. And that, do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, totally.
so I met, so watching Portia, I was already in, but, like, Portia to me is you're not expecting how intelligent she is because she's so funny and ratchet on, like, the other side of it. Like, she's so able to, like, go into that, like, reality television comedian world where she's just hysterical. Like, I sent you messages during that fucking reunion where I was screaming at the top of my lungs because she's so funny. But then, like you're saying, to, like, dive into, and she's stunning. Like, I just feel like I have to say it. She's stunning. But, like, then, yeah, the most beautiful. But then to, like, go into really the way she's speaking, and you know, she said, like, after she said she got gassed, like, after they gassed her, she said she was just inspired to keep going. She was like, you know what, like, I felt this, and I was like, I went through this, and I'm going to keep fighting. And especially from those, like, comments she made, like, in the earlier seasons when she thought the Underground Railroad was, like, actually underground, and, like, those kinds of things where it's like, you know, like, her grandfather Jose, I believe is how you pronounce his name, like, Jose Williams, Jose Williams, is obviously, like, she talks about in one of these interviews, she talks about kind of marching with him when she was a child. And she said she didn't really understand the magnitude, but she felt like she was doing something important, and she knew that she was a part of something. And she said that it wasn't really until after this George Floyd stuff where she was like, I can't stay silent on this in the way I have been anymore. I have to be out in the front of this. I have to be active. And I just think that, like, to have a voice like Portia's, to have a platform like Portia's, she's doing so much good for the Black community, because they're going to look at a woman like that and they're going to say, this is a woman from maybe the same kind of area that I'm in. You know what I mean? Maybe the same kind of situation that I'm in, or they're going to relate to her. And I think that to watch her almost, like, take that funny, like, that what she does on the show, and then to flip it on this, I'm like, you are a multifaceted, incredibly inspiring woman. And I just think that, like, especially in times like these, those are the reality stars I want to be looking at, are the people that are saying, stop the cameras and let's, like, actually have a conversation about what's going on.
Well, because at the end of the day, like, they are real people living in reality. Like, we see truncated versions of their lives. Like, we see such a small little portion. And even it's so interesting because we've talked about on this show how it's going to be weird to think, like, reality shows are going to come back. And it's like, what, post-quarantine? Like, there's a lot of trauma that is being built up in quarantine. There's a lot of trauma that comes from protesting and being tear gassed. And there's a lot of feelings that people are feeling right now. Everybody's broke. Everybody doesn't have a job. Everybody's fighting. We are incredibly divided as a nation. How are we then supposed to go back and say, okay, Portia and Nene are gonna get their nails done, and then
It's gonna flip everything on
yeah.
its head.
And so, and even like sitting here and talking about it, like I saw so many people on Instagram posting, how can I ever watch Bravo again with what's going on? It's like, when were we looking at Bravo shows as our moral compasses? Like, I never
You have
Vicky Gunvalson, why isn't she saying something about Black Lives Matter? Because she doesn't care about Black lives and has never.
and she's a fucking homophobe. She's a homophobe. Like, these people don't
all
care.
run in the same circles. Homophobes, the racists, they're all
yeah, they know each other.
they
That's like,
see each other.
yeah, we see each other. But that's like another thing where like it's I 100% agree. People always, like, my mother is a typical Jersey Italian woman. She is beautiful. I love everything about her. But for all intents and purposes, she's pretty fucking woke. You know what I mean? Like, my mom has been posting 8 to 9 times a day, like reform. She's like defund the police, and like my mom's on it, really on it. And my mom like would always be like, why do you watch those Housewives shows? And I'm like, I watch other things. Like, I love Game of Thrones, and like I loved, like, there's other TV shows that I like, scripted television that I enjoy. But like the thing about Bravo is it's very much like, I sometimes want to be mindless. You know what I mean? I just want to, like, if I get up and go to the bathroom in the middle of Atlanta, if like I don't like care if
I don't.
Yeah, I'm like, I'll pick it up. If something dramatic happens, I'll rewind it. And that's what I think reality TV is meant to be. And I'm interested to see, because they're supposed to start filming Jersey again. They like just announced that like they're gonna, like, I think on July 20th, and I'm like, but where? Like, where are you gonna film it? And it's like, what are you guys gonna talk about? Because at the end of the day, like, once again, I know this isn't on the docket, but like at the end of the day, it's kind of like there's really problematic people on that show too. And it's like, if you're not gonna take to task like everybody, like, they're like in the Bravo, like the press release, they're like, we're gonna talk about like Teresa's relationship and dating. And I'm like, what? Like, you guys have to figure it out. Like, we have to move forward in a different way, because like at this point, like, I don't want like a 5-minute scene on the Real Housewives of Potomac talking about institutionalized racism. Like, I want to know, like, coming out of quarantine, like, what happened? You know what I mean? What's going on with you?
And I think like even people like saying we need to air this stuff on Bravo, and I agree, like these conversations do need to be held on Bravo, but they need to be done properly. They can't be rushed, and you can't put Andy Cohen at the helm of a race conversation.
I mean,
so NBC decided that they're going to put a $100 million multi-year plan to advance social justice and equality, which is great. Money does solve some problems. But like, without leadership that are people of color, you cannot expect a group of white people to understand or to know the right steps or to produce the right shows or to have the correct discussions. Like, you can't. And it's not because white people can't do it. It's because there are blind spots because of white privilege. And so I think that's like what people aren't understanding. They're saying, why, and then I don't know. And then there's the other side of the coin where it's like, yeah, of course, like I want these conversations to be had on Bravo, but Bravo is not NPR. Bravo is not the New York Times. I'm not fucking Christiane Amanpour. I don't need to sit up here and pretend I am like Miss Woke USA 2020. Like, I'm not. I'm just like Kristen. I'm living, I'm learning, I'm laughing. People don't come to this show to learn about, tips on being a social justice warrior, period. And I'm not even pretending like that's the case. And people aren't looking at Bravo to do that either. And for people to expect Bravo to sit up here and teach the world about race, what the fuck is the point?
And especially like you said, if we're gonna have like white people at the helm of it, like, I don't speak for the Black community, I really don't, but I don't in my heart of hearts believe the Black community really has a single another second for white people talking about the way they treat Black people. Like, if you want to do it, you know what, get me new voices. Like, if you really want to do it, find voices that are educated in the community, that are speaking to people that understand what institutionalized racism has done over the years. And you know what? Give me an hour-long expose of moments in Bravo where you guys fucked it up. You know what I mean? And show me maybe an area where this is racist. You know what I mean? Like, having this situation here this way is racist. And then, you know what? Move on. Because at this point, like you said, it's going to get to a point where it's counterfeit, and nobody, like, I want to hear from like the people that have been affected by racism. I want to hear about the people that like want to change racism. I don't want to hear how sorry you are because like you said the N-word in a tweet 6 years ago and you're mad you got caught.
Yeah.
You're racist. And I just don't, at this point, like for me, like I agree, like I don't come to your show because I'm like, I can't wait to hear how woke Megan is. I'm like, I watched the same shit that she did, and I need to make sure that we're on the same page. So it's like, so for me, like, I feel like it's just at a place now where, what I mean to say, like, by looking at the problematic cast members of these different shows is like, it's at a place now where it's like, what are you gonna do? Because it's like, this stuff is gonna keep happening. So if you don't have like these conversations to be had on Bravo about racism or even mental health, like, and stuff that's happening like during the quarantine, it's kind of like on the other end of it, it's like, maybe don't, because it's like, I don't really know if you're going to make anything better, you know, like post up like where people can go to get that information, or you know what, maybe put a news show on Bravo if you want to. Put something that's educated on Bravo and have the people watch it that want to watch it, you know? But like, look at shows like Fashion Queens that were on for like 20 minutes. You know what I mean?
And a lot of shows that have non-white cast, whether it's Mexican Dynasties, like there are so many Texicanas, like there's a million shows that are cut off after season 1, and I understand there's a ratings thing, but I also know for a fact, because I work in production, that it's the money and the advertising you put behind these shows. You wonder why Dallas and Potomac don't have good numbers? Because they're not invited to BravoCon. Only 2 people from the cast are invited to BravoCon. The women are barely invited on to Watch What Happens Live. When you are a network that is especially like a web, with Watch What Happens Live and other talk shows, because NBC is a major network, it's a parent company to a lot of different
yeah
you have the ability to get your cast members onto other talk shows and onto e-shows and do all of these things and have all of these press. If you're not giving them the same exact opportunities, then that's Bravo's fault. That's Bravo's fault, not the viewers for not watching. Because anytime someone's like, oh, I started watching Potomac and it's incredible, and I said, well, yeah, you know what, you wouldn't even know.
And it's like, Potomac has been fucking incredible since day one. Potomac has been killing it from the jump. And I thought initially, like, the marketing behind Potomac was so interesting because it was like, where the fuck is Potomac? And I was like, oh, now I'm watching. I'm like, now I'm watching. I'm like, I'm going to watch it. And it's like, I was so happy to see another cast of Black women. But I do have a lot of issues with, I think, just Bravo in general and representation, because I think like that they do, the Black and people of color that they have on the show, they really like put them into boxes. And I think that like they really push forth this, like, there's like a Nene, and then there's like a Quad, and then there's like a Giselle, and it's like, you know, like
caricatures.
Yes, and I agree. Like, I love Nene Leakes. I think she's great television, and I know she's not everybody's favorite, but you know, in watching her, sometimes I sympathize with her, where I do think they're like, nobody wants happy Nene. They want angry Black woman Nene. That's what they want. So if she's not giving,
then you begin to feed that beast, and then when you aren't doing that, people are like, she's soft, she's changed,
she's boring.
It's like, so you can't win. And also, like, let us not forget the #1 rated show on Bravo is Atlanta. The #1 highest paid housewife is Candy Burris on the Real Housewives of Atlanta. Like, let us not forget the hierarchy. So, you know, you could talk all you want. Ramona Singer says Real Housewives of New York is the best show in the world. Well, numbers are different. And granted, I am partial to New York Housewives because, like, I'm a sadist and I love watching people's downfalls happen on television. But, like, you can't lose sight of that. And Bravo can't lose sight of that. And even, like, Married to Medicine LA, like, these women don't get the same opportunities. And their shows are so good. But
you never see the Married to Medicine women anywhere. I'm telling you,
not
for
even
a
on Bravo's
minute.
Instagram, not even
That's
posting
ever,
watch this
ever.
episode, nothing.
And
And
I, like, and it's like even Shaw's, like people like forget about Shaw's when it's not on because you don't hear about it. Like we see Reza on Watch What Happens Live and sometimes MJ, but it's like the rest of them, I feel like, I don't know if you agree, but the rest of them, I feel like unless their shows in cycle, we don't see them. Teresa Giudice is on Watch What Happens Live like once a month. Like there's like he's got fucking like there's people on there that like are no longer housewives, but they're getting on their
Heather Dubrow, he'll like, you know, Brandy Glanville, these nobodyvilles, like trying to garner up some buzz from them rather than giving the people on your shows an actual fair shot. And it's unfortunate, and it's clear as day, and it has been for anybody watching these things with a keen eye. And so now everybody's like, we need to hold Bravo to task. And it's like, that's not our job as a viewer. That's not.
No, it's Bravo's job to hold themselves. It's Bravo's job to, it's their, you're right. You're really right with that, because it's like, I was even saying that earlier where I'm like, we have to hold them to task, but you're right. It's not our job to do that. We don't go to Bravo for that. We go to Bravo to like
pay me to make them make content that's not offensive. Like that's a them problem if their content and their bullshit is going to be offensive to people. I enjoy it generally because, you know, you watch these people make these fucking terrible decisions. Leanne Locken, watching her downfall on television was crazy. It was crazy.
Unreal. Unreal. It was one of those things where, and you know what? That was kind of one of the first where they're like, you're fired for this. Yeah. And I was like, you know, it's like, it's like, you know, you're on TV. You know, people are watching you. I don't make racist comments. I don't make racist jokes. I definitely have some offensive jokes in my back pocket. And like, I have some like things, you know, that are off color, but like, I don't make racist, homophobic, or offensive jokes. I correct all of my friends when they do, or if they do, which is rare. And the reason being is I am just at a place in my life, like where I just think that like it's tasteless. It's like calling a woman fat, or like talking about like, it's just tasteless. And I think that like, if I'm doing that in my normal everyday today, like Milian life, like you need to be doing that in your on TV. Like if I'm doing that at like the Pathmark or the Walmart in town, like I need you to do that also like on a show where you're getting paid like almost as much as I would be making in a year per episode. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like, you have to go. If you say dumb racist shit on TV, you have to go. That's like why when Vicky was making those homophobic comments, I'm like, if they bring her back, like, which I mean, I think we all knew that was.
Yeah. That ship had sailed for her. But I mean, even we saw like, couple seasons ago in Kim Zolciak's last season on Atlanta, where she was like, well, what do you expect when you're the only white woman sitting on a couch with a bunch of mean black ladies? And everyone was like, not today, Satan, not today. And then she runs and then plays the victim role and turns it on the other women. And then like the producers and Andy was like, girl, that's not okay. And we're not going to stop you.
Couldn't believe that Bravo even aired that. When they were having that conversation in the bathroom, or the dressing room, I was like, this is unreal. She didn't really say that. You know what I mean? And it's like, for me, I was like, the fact that they're like, that's another moment where you're like, okay, they're taking Kim Zolciak to task, but it was great TV. So they're like, of course we're going to put it on. You know what I mean? Had she, heaven forbid, called one of them the N-word, that wouldn't have made it to TV. But it's like, that's one of those things that you should have been like, in moments like that, you're like, she might as well have, you know what I mean? To sit there and been like, all these black ladies are attacking me. And it's like, hold yourself accountable for the things that you fucking say. You're smarter than that. You know what I mean? Like you've been on this show for how many years? Like, it's like, wake up to the world. Like, people are tired of your racism. Exactly like you said to your friend where he's like, oh, you sound angry. And it's like, I agree. I don't really, like, you know, like my best friends, we call ourselves like the Milian Mafia, and like we are very like woke and like super inclusive. And I think we're just all raised in an environment where we're like that. But really at the end of the day, like, I don't really hang out with people in that are that way, but I've met them, you know, from performing. You do makeup to people from all walks of life. I'm the biggest Beyonce fan you'll ever meet in your life. And I did this lady's makeup one time and she was shitting on Beyonce. Like, probably had never heard a Beyonce song in her life. It was like right after the when she did that shit at the Super Bowl, when she like came out and did like the Black Panther kind of homage thing. And she was just like the words that were coming out of this woman's mouth about someone she doesn't know. I was like, this is insane. So I try to educate people. Like, you know what I say? I'm like, well, why don't you like her? You know what I mean? What is really there that you don't like about her? And in situations like this, like when I have friends, like I've had friends where I've said, hey, like, I don't want you to get defensive. I'm not saying this as an attack. What you're saying is racist. And at the end of the day, like, you have to kind of understand why it's racist. And I'm not saying that you're a terrible person. What I'm saying is that the way that you speak is racist. So I don't need Bravo to like put a disclaimer before every episode and be like, we've had all these conversations with our people and we know that they know what the way to go is. I don't need that. What I need you to do is like, I need like the people on the show, the editors, I need them to hold the network as a whole accountable. I need to see more Black people and people of color on shows where they're represented. You live in New York, right?
Yeah.
Like, why are there no Black women on Real Houses of New York?
Because they would get attacked by Ramona Singer. Like, and that's another thing. I've talked about it a couple, probably like 2 or 3 months ago. I had a show and my friend Alexander and we were talking and we were like, yeah, it'd be great to have a Black woman on the show. But then you think dumbasses Sonia and Ramona, Tweedledee and Tweedledum, won't stop what they're gonna say to them, and the way that they speak to Tinsley, the way that they speak to Leah, and Leah,
the tattoos. I thought it was the 1950s. I was like, this is tattoos. I'm like, Sonia, we have seen you so drunk that you've gotten a concussion. You're like hitting your head on an inanimate object that's not moving. And it's like, and you are here telling this woman who is easily Rookie of the Year on all, in my opinion, on every Housewife franchise, 100% Rookie of the Year. But you're standing here like telling this woman that like she's undesirable because she has tattoos.
All of mine.
Like, no, but it's just like, I don't have any, but not because I don't like them, because I'm fucking scared. My brother is tatted up and down his body. Like, my boyfriend has like 9. I'm like pointing as if you're in my house because that's where they are in my house. But like, yeah, my brother's in that room over there. My boyfriend's in that room over there. But it's like, it's just like, I think a network as a whole. Listen, like, I'm sure I have seen some of these people out in public and I've seen the way they behave in public. And at the end of the day, like, I've seen like, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I have seen Andy Cohen at a gay club. I've seen him there. And I have seen, and I don't know him, don't come after me, Andy Cohen, but like, I've seen the demographic of men that he was only interested in. And in my opinion, it does not make sense that if he has so much power, that there is not more representation on Bravo.
Well, you fetishize Black people. You can consistently fetishize a Black man, a Black woman, whatever, to be whatever you want. But no, they're not. No.
And that's what I'm saying. So it's like, there's like a lot, I'm not going to repeat it because it's crude, but there's that sign that's like, don't open your mouth for Black if you're not going to open your mouth for Black issues. So I think that like,
I've never heard that one. I've never heard that one. As I write it, gets attention.
It's everywhere. I'll send it to you. But it's literally everywhere. I don't mind. You can put that on all the airwaves because it's everywhere. But this is also going like maybe 6 or 7 years ago. But like, of course, I was enamored. I've been a Bravoholic from the beginning, and I was like, "That's fucking Andy Cohen." I have a picture on my Instagram of that night. I was like, "Holy shit!" His fucking friend, what's that guy? Bruce took the picture. Like, so it was, yeah, like he wouldn't, like Bruce wouldn't.
Oh my God.
I know. I've been waiting to tell people these things because like no one ever listens. Like they're like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm like really good acquaintances with Jacqueline's daughter. And I met her like,
Jacqueline Lorena?
Yeah. And I met her, Ashley. I'm like some Jacqueline's daughter, like I don't know her first name, but we met through the makeup world because she does makeup. And like, I met her like after like in between when she came back on the show and when she had left. So it was like before she got married and all that, but like in that in between area. And I Megan, when I'm telling you, I shit myself over this girl when I saw her. Like, I literally was like staring at her, and she was like looking at me, and I walked up to her, hand to God. First of all, I'll say this: she's an amazing young woman. She's really funny. She's definitely like trying to learn, like, and she definitely, like, with all this Black Lives Matter and everything, I've seen her really try to like understand. She's asked me questions. She's a really great girl, and I'm glad that we're friends. But when I went up to this girl, I swear to God, like, I looked at her and I was like, "Are you who I think you are?" And she was like, "Who do you think I am?" And I was like, "Love and light, stay in the positive, bitch." And she was like, "Yeah, but,
positive.
but the reason I bring this up is, like, nobody knew who the fuck she was. Like, she was at work. You know what I mean? Like, she was not like out here like kikiing. And with Andy, it was different, because with Andy, it was like in the center. People know who the fuck Andy Cohen is. And
yeah, of course.
I was kind of just like, you know, it's weird because those of us that like, they're like celebrities. Like, they're not, for me, like, I'm like, that's a famous person. Like, you're famous, and I want to be close to you and ask you about 100 episodes in the last 8 seasons. I have a list. We have a lot to talk about. But with Andy, it was interesting because, like, at the skate club, I was there with my brother, and we were just like having a great night. And I was like, that's Andy Cohen. My brother at that point had no idea who Andy Cohen was. And watching him, like, of course, like, you know, I was young, I was single. I was like, let me see if I can get some of this Andy Cohen. I was like, let me get some Andy Cohen. I was like, and very much, like I said, it was a certain demographic of men were the only ones he was dancing with, the only ones he was interested in. And I don't know if that's his journey of who he is now, but it's been surprising to me every time I see a white person on Watch What Happens Live, or every time I see people like Brandy Glanville being continuously thrown back into the ring, or people like Jill Zarin, when you have somebody like Marlo, who we've given no platform, and she's basically driven storylines for us for 8 years. And there's like a rumor that Marlo at some point made homophobic comments. So that's like a big part of it. But I'm like, then you have a lot of other women that you're going to have to fire from their jobs. Yeah. Because like, I personally have seen videos of Danielle Staub saying the FAG word, and I'm like, and she was on like 3 seasons after that. So yeah. what I'm trying to say is, like, I guess it's like one of those things where it's like, yeah, we love Black people, but like, people don't want to watch them. People don't want to see them.
Our audience wouldn't understand.
Yeah, they wouldn't get why we're so woke all of a sudden. And it's like, no, but you're going to be broke soon, because people are no longer like, people are just over it. And it's one of my favorite things about this kind of whole situation is, like, you and I are sitting here on a Bravo podcast having this conversation, because at the end of the day, it's like, people are going to stop putting their money where their mouth, or no, people are going to start putting their money where their mouth is. And they're going to get to a place where they're like, no, I'm not supporting this bullshit anymore. Because Nene commented on that, like, dethroning and firing too. And she was like, I got some other people for you too. And I mean, like, Nene loves to be like, she winked at me twice at the Target, fire her. You know what I mean? But it's like, I'd love to know, because I don't want to feel like when I'm watching Bravo, I'm hanging out with my racist friend, you know?
Totally. And I think there have been moments of shows where you feel like that, or even, yeah, I guess Vanderpump Rules most recently, where, you know, the whole homophobic thing. And I'm like, how are they even defending this? And then Lala sits there and it's like, how dare you bring this up for your own benefit? No, bitch, it's for the millions of people who are watching, who think that the things that this man speaks of are, 1, true, and 2, okay to say. He's literally saying they, like, don't exist, and that they're, you know, I don't want to even go into it, but, like, how can you...
And you have Brittany sitting there like, y'all, this was one of the hardest times in my life. And it's like, or in your life? Like, it was hard for you to accept that your pastor from Bumblefuck, Kentucky was like so you're going to, Brittany, are you really going to tell me that you didn't know that? Are you really going to try to say that you didn't know?
The man
guess what, that
grew up with you your whole life, didn't pick up on that whole
all of a sudden was like, kill the gays, and you were like, what do you mean? I never knew.
JK, I don't believe that anymore. I don't think like that no more. Oh, why? How? Why?
Did you get your aggression out on someone? Like, or now you hate Black people? Like, it's just like you said, those racists run in that racist circle, and it's like, that was why, like, one of my favorite moments ever on reality television, and I didn't really love her, but when Carol Radziwill was so intense about the election, and literally at that reunion, they were like, who'd you vote for? And like every person who didn't vote for Donald Trump was like, I voted for Hillary Clinton, or I voted for this one, I voted for that one. And like Ramona's like, I don't disclose who I vote for. Luann's like, I don't talk about the people I vote for. And I'm like, but you're a reality star and we want to know because we want to support you if you don't have the same values as us. And
Also,
it's like,
I always find it to be like, who cares but who you voted for? But if you can't proudly say who you vote for, then that's the bigger issue. You gotta look inward. If you are so embarrassed to be voting for someone as the leader of the freest country in the world, which is insane to say, considering people aren't free.
considering.
But like, if you can't proudly say who you believe should run our country, then
how'd you do it? How'd you do it? How'd you do it then? And that's like, I think it's important for us to, as a society, especially as like people, like as an entertainer and as somebody that works in marketing or in production, when you're looking at people, like you have to think like, I don't need you to like be woke. I don't need you to like I said, post like an offensive picture of a fist or like have Black Lives Matter all over your room. What I need you to do is I need you to start representing what the world actually is. And privileged white girls that work at a bar in fucking the middle of like West Hollywood, that's just not what the world is. Portia Williams sitting, taking her platform, speaking, inspiring both young white and Black people to fight and protest. How many people do you think saw that and were like, Portia got tear gassed, and here she is back out at the protest 2 days later, and she doesn't need to be. I mean, I want her to be, but she doesn't need to be. She could be sitting in her multi-million-dollar house with her beautiful baby and her gorgeous sister and her mom and that questionable white wig, and she could sit there and she could live off her own privilege. But you know what? She's doing what a lot of white people can't, where she's recognizing the privilege she has and she's using it for good. So I, for one, although I don't know Portia Williams, was super proud to be a fan of hers in that moment. And even honestly, Candy and Giselle as well, because I think that it's like important, like, listen, like as a Black woman, Candy is like, I can tell you, speak to what she does to inspire me as a young white man, but I can't imagine how inspiring to Black women Candy Burris is. Because if you think like, yeah, she's the highest paid housewife, but like she's also probably the richest housewife without the paycheck.
Yeah,
like
without a man doing it for her. Period.
That is so fucking empowering for women, for Black women, for Black people, for single people, for anyone that is like feeling down on themselves, to look at this woman and like, and you're like, oh, well, she's boring on the show. And it's like, oh, well, she wrote No Scrubs and Bills, Bills, Bills. So like, she's out here fucking killing it. And it's like, and I think like, even someone like Giselle, who I think like when they said Giselle, I was like,
Candace has been so open about all this stuff. Like Candace has really been a good voice for this. Granted, like I think she like beat Monique up.
Yeah, and Bravo takes a stand there. When
they're
people
like,
hit each other,
oh,
they're
girl,
like,
we are gonna film that, and we are gonna
yeah,
put it out 2020, summer 2020. Good luck.
yeah, but like, yeah, with that, it's like, yeah, I didn't even think of that. That's probably going to be real hard to show in the summer, just with the subject matter. But like,
Black women
which
beating
is
her up, the ratings will be through the roof.
yeah, exactly. But with, they're like, finally, we can show this. Like, how many episodes did we watch to watch Portia like lightly snatch Kenya's face? And it's like, but they built it up for like weeks and weeks. They're like, there was a fight, there was a fight, there was a fight. I was like, I'm from an area where people fight, and at the end of the day, that was a squabble. I'm sorry, I don't think anybody should ever put their hands on one another. But I'm like, y'all made it seem like we were gonna watch like the battle of the season. And even myself, like, had to check my own privilege because I'm like, I'm ready to watch this. Like, I'm ready. I want to see it. And it's like, have you ever seen white women really fight on the show? Not really, have we? Have we ever seen any white women fight on Housewives? I mean, not
really. I mean, one good comparison is like when when Portia got physical, I think it was with Kenya at the reunion, and gets walked off of the reunion. Teresa pushes her boss, the executive producer on her show, and the head of basically the network during filming, and gets told to sit down and calm down and sit there. It doesn't have to leave. Doesn't have to leave. She puts her
And
hands
then
on her
like,
pulse.
and then also like Danielle snatches Margaret's hair and is like allowed to stay on the show. Like they didn't invite her back, but I get like, do you know what I mean? It's also like, listen, like I have like it's difficult for me to even admit this, but like when it comes to Teresa Giudice, I have like a blind, she's like the bald eagle here in Jersey. Like you're like, she's the symbol of the state. Like, what am I supposed to do? And like, and I will tell you this, like, I will say this, when at BravoCon, when there was that argument, when Vicky's like, I put it on the map, and Ramona's like, she put it on the map, and I'm like, listen.
Teresa put it on the map.
When she flipped that fucking table, everyone was like, Housewives. So like, that's what I'll say. Teresa Giudice, in my opinion, is the reason people watch all of them. Regardless, though, even Teresa, like, it's like, they felt Portia was so expendable that they suspended her for a season after that. Andy makes jokes about Teresa assaulting him. Like, he's like, she's so strong. Like, she's so strong and solid. And it's like, she grabbed you and she threw you. You were in one place at the beginning of the altercation, and then she took you to the second location. She knocked you to a second location. I'm like, the fight with Portia and Kenya was bad. And like I said, I don't condone violence, but like they were both throwing objects in one another's faces. Like, where was production? Where was production? No. Waiting for it to happen. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But when Teresa knocks Andy over and Danielle walks off, and that now iconic moment, you see production ready to grab Teresa. Like, they're right there, like ready to grab. Yeah. They're like, we're going to get you. We're going to get you. And like, I love Teresa, but that's another moment where I'm like, not only did she come back the next season, but like she then became the star of the show, because that's when right after that is when Melissa and Kathy joined, and it became rather a show about the Manzos, but a show about the Giudices. And it's like, and I mean, we'll see how that worked out. But I think that like it's important to talk about the differences in the way that the shows present Black women and white women, especially when you're having a conversation praising somebody like Portia Williams, because you think like, were they just lucky with Portia and Candy that they had like these well-spoken women, and were they just like, pick 3 Black girls, pick whoever you want? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, were they like, oh, like Portia, like, I don't like her at all, but I would love to hear Kenya's perspective on, like, I think it would have been better to just have Kenya, Portia, and Candy. You know what I mean? Like, or you know what? Like, maybe get somebody from a different franchise. Maybe grab a married to. Maybe one just said that
doctors who.
Maybe one of the actual like women with medical degrees. Yeah, I mean. Yeah.
Well, on that note, this is the longest episode literally in history of this show, but we spoke for so long, and this was such a great talk. We do have to end, or else I will die of starvation. But this was amazing.
I hope you had fun. Yeah, this was really really fun.
No, this was so much fun and difficult time to be podcasting, and I've been struggling and feeling anxious about it because I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to be an idiot. But also, it's like, again, like I said, this is an NPR. No one's coming here to hear my fucking hot take. Like, I'm not that kind of person. And so this was a perfect conversation, I think, to discuss so many different facets of what's going on and how many different lenses you can really look at Bravo and race and just everything.
And Megan, like, I listen to you all the time. Like, I'm a huge fan. Like, I would love to come back at some point, but I think at like, 100%. I think at the end of the day, like, you are the right person to be able to say what you just said, where you're like, this isn't NPR, but it's like, but you're open to discussions and you're open to hearing things. You're not like, I mean, obviously we're both privileged as white people, but you're not sitting here like, I don't understand why they would fire Stassi and Kristen. You're like, we got a list of some other ones to get rid of too. Like, let's get the rest. But this was such an amazing like moment in my week, and I'm so happy that I got to do it.
Oh my God, it is absolutely my pleasure. But where can people find you, follow you, watch your videos? I know you do so many different things. I feel like you're kind of like a
yeah, I'm really like, I'm a singer and I'm like a makeup artist, but you can find like me and everything I do on my Instagram, which is @JaredMilian_, because there's a man in Italy who I've been fighting for months with to get Jared Milian. So it's @JaredMilian_. And then my group is @MilianMafia Official. And you can kind of just see everything that I'm doing, but everything is on that main page. Instagram's my favorite form of social media. So I try to be like the most active there. There's like an @JaredMillian on Twitter too. But right now, if you are not of the same mindset as me, I just wouldn't even look at it because I'm very much like, down with the fucking racists. But, you know.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much.
Came out like 20 years ago, but thank you.
All right.
But thank you for having me.
Of course.